Welcome, listeners, to the very first episode of the Bright Brainz podcast. I'm your host, Isaac, and today we will embark on an exciting exploration of the future with tech historian and educator Thomas Derr. In this episode, we're diving headfirst into the captivating world of AI, a technological marvel that is reshaping the way we live, work, and think. Join us as we unravel the complexities of AI, its impact on our society, and its incredible potential to revolutionize countless aspects of our lives. My guest is Thomas Derr, and basically we're going to talk about AI. So, Thomas, just tell me a little bit about yourself and, you know,
Sure. Well, Isaac, thank you for having me on the first episode. It's an honor and a pleasure to be the first for you. Hopefully, it is something that will help kind of propel this thing forward for you. But for me, so I'm from the East Coast. I live in New Jersey, born and raised. I went to school. I have my both my bachelor's and my master's degree both in history. I'm looking to go back for a PhD next year in American Studies, focusing on technology and its intersections with culture. I'm a cultural and a technological historian by trade. For work, for money, I work as a social studies teacher in a high school. So I teach world history, US 1, US 2. I teach US 3, which is a dual enrollment. I actually just recently got hired as a adjunct professor at a local community college. So I will be starting
Awesome.
there this fall as well. Thank you, thank you. And so that's kind of like my professional intellectual background. My profession, my expertise is not necessarily in AI, but because of AI becoming so relevant lately, people have just kind of maybe woken up to it. And I figured I got to kind of hop on this bus as well because AI is, it's almost like any technology, once it's unleashed upon the world, it's almost like we lose grasp of how much it starts to affect us and it starts to grow out of our control. And I feel like that's where AI is starting to go, and people don't know how to assess it, how to understand it, how to use it, what it's used for, what are the positives and the negatives to it. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, what's interesting about AI is that I'm surprised about how accessible it is. I never imagined that I would have an app like Chat GPT on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about AI, like in science fiction, I think about like Skynet, this giant, massive computer, but it's literally in the palm of our hand, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So where is AI going to take us, man? And in the next, 10 or so years.
So I'll give you a lot of different projections of what people are researching AI for now and what the implications they're trying to get AI to do. But to answer your question on why it's so accessible is because realistically, AI being artificial intelligence, you got to understand it only learns from the input that's given to it, right? So it is a self-learning module, but it can't learn if there's nothing being put into it, right? So by
Mhm.
making it free and accessible for us, it's essentially we're the test subjects for creating and cultivating the brain of the AI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we're
And
guinea pigs, basically.
I mean, we're definitely, if you want to talk about in global terms and large terms, we're definitely today we're products. We're no longer producers and sellers. We are the product of social media and technology companies. Think about, when was the last time you paid money to download an app?
It's been a while.
It's been a long
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to buy every app for $2, $3, $4, and then
Hmm.
now everything's free. Everything
Yes.
is free because what ends up happening is all that data that you input into the dating apps, into the social media apps, into the gaming apps, they all collect data on you and it gets saved into a file, and then that data gets essentially kind of turned into a little AI version of you, and they read the algorithms of that AI version of you to kind of predict what your next actions and purchases are going to be. We call it surveillance capitalism. And this is where all these apps kind of this is how they all work now. So ChatGPT is no different because there's also a paid version of ChatGPT that you can access as well. But ChatGPT is obviously, I think, it's going to become on the same level, if not even outgrow the impact of like the way social media functions and like has changed our culture at least. I
Yeah.
mean, you'd probably agree, right? You think social media and technology has changed the way we live?
Yes, and most definitely. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
hard
that's
to even imagine a time before Facebook and Twitter, or as it's
uh-huh.
called now, X.
X.
You
Yeah, and then a lot of
know,
people are protesting that too. So,
yeah. Um,
um,
it's really interesting. The thing about that worries me the most about AI is the loss of jobs. So,
mhm.
how do you see AI affecting like the workforce?
So the way I would like analyze so when like historians of like labor historians, they like look at like laws about like working laws and all this kind of stuff and just essentially how labor has changed and evolved over time. From looking at it from like that type of perspective, we've seen a lot of automation already, but not
Hmm.
necessarily AI. Um, and ultimately, as like a technological historian, we got to always remember that technology is a tool. It's a tool, just like a rake, just like a fork. It's a tool for us to use to then kind of like achieve some type of outcome, right? And AI is no different. It's being used today in a lot of different positive ways, but like kind of like what you mentioned is like there's just a lot of like anxiety around AI and the fear of
Hmm.
losing jobs. Is it going to replace, for example, is AI going to replace teachers? Because then really all kids are going to do is type a question into ChatGPT and it produces a response.
Hmm.
So you can kind of make that, you can kind of like make that argument, but you gotta also remember ChatGPT isn't like a conscious sentient thing, whereas it simply is just a super mega computer that can process information so incredibly fast that it just produces like a scripted response, right? So when you type in, I don't know, any silly question like why is the sky blue? It'll spit out based on hundreds, if not thousands and thousands and thousands of Google articles and
Hmm.
summarize all that information together. And like essentially it would like probably the way you would imagine it would make like a pie chart. So think of one explanation would have a percentage, then like maybe a not so popular explanation would have a smaller percentage. So it would probably say like it would talk about what's in this bigger percentage. Like, okay, well, 65% of scientists agree that it is this. 5% of scientists say something like this. And then it would explain things like that. Like, oh, there's other phenomena that also happen that we can't explain, blah, blah, blah. So that's how AI works. It's not like in its like perfect state yet. It's not like the Terminator where it's like the sentient automated
Yeah,
thing.
not yet.
Yeah, not yet. I know
Not yet.
that's the scary part, right? Imagine
Yeah.
Terminator walking around.
Hmm.
With loss of jobs, I think it'll do two things. It might affect the job market for like you say unskilled labor versus skilled
Hmm.
labor. Um, but it will also produce a lot of skilled labor. I recently was on a podcast on it's called Talk Ag to Me. And it's about agriculture. The guy's an extremely smart agricultural scientist, and he actually was explaining to me how AI is being used in agriculture to actually do a lot of really good things. And some of what they've been working on is they use AI to automate to track facial expressions of animals. And so you can actually try instead of implanting like when you have like a farm animal or something, they put like clips into their ears and they pierce them. So one big argument that a lot of farmers and people have is like, well, we shouldn't be treating these animals cruelly for food and all this kind of stuff. If you think back to like indigenous cultures in America, like natives, they had a very large respect for animals, right? They would never overkill, overhunt. They would use every single possible resource from the animal to honor its death, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of farmers and stuff have that perspective too, where they want to treat the animals with care, and happy animals means happy product, right? So
Hmm.
that's why Wagyu beef is like so expensive, right? Because they like treat the cows like gods.
Yeah.
So with AI technology, it'll prevent any unnecessary pricking or pain to the animals. Also, it can track animal facial recognition, very similar to like how your phone has facial recognition now. That's what they set up AI cameras that whenever they feed, they take pictures, millions and millions of pictures of these pigs and these animals, and it actually builds a profile of the animal. And this is also used in zoos to help mating between zoos. So there's actually like imagine like Tinder, but for zoo animals to
Tender
reproduce.
for
Because
zoo animals.
literally, yeah, literally, I swear, I watched a
Yeah.
documentary about this. It was insane. And basically different zoos from around the country will put like dating profiles, quote unquote, onto these dating like softwares so that zoos can say, okay, well, we have a male endangered penguin. This one has a female endangered penguin. Will they be a good match? And they can, excuse me, they can actually assess whether or not they might be a good match for mating to continue like the breed. So that's some of like the positive things that are being kind of incorporated into AI right now. I don't know if labor is going to be too heavily negatively affected, but you will see a loss of some unskilled jobs.
Yeah. So here's my thinking, right? You know how a couple years back everybody was saying, learn to code, learn to code. If you want a good job, learn to code.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people did learn to code, but now with the Chat GPT, you can just say, "Hey, Chat GPT, design me an app for iPhone," and Chat GPT will do it for you. It'll
Mm-hmm.
put the code out, and then you can just say, Chat GPT, show me how to submit this to Apple and get it in the App Store. And I'm like, it used to be a time when, you know, that was a real skill. People went to school for long periods of time to learn how to do that. And now Chat GPT just does it. And so what I found to be really interesting is that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of the jobs, like white collar jobs, those will be easily replaced by AI. But a lot of these blue collar jobs like carpenter, plumber, nursing, maybe so forth and so on, they might be AI assisted, but they won't be wiped out. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you mentioned teacher, right? So, during the lockdown, we had kids on Zoom like we are now
Mm-hmm.
with their teacher, and they could easily just take the teacher out of that equation and just replace it with like a little AI cartoon character or something,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Another idea, and I think I heard something about this of like maybe like a defense attorney. Like let's say you have to go to court, and maybe you go to court and it's just like a little laptop there and a little speaker, and that, I mean, think about it. Like if you ever had a ticket or something and you go to court,
Mm-hmm.
that person there that's supposed to like help you, that person
Yeah.
can be replaced, with AI. So it's really interesting. What do you think about all this?
I truly think like you bring up very good points. And I think when you said AI assisted, I think that's probably gonna be more or less where most go. Because if you do think about it, like so during COVID, actually before COVID, I was a museum educator and then I lost my job because of COVID. So they closed down the whole department. And I became a teacher kind of during COVID. I was taking my tests and I transitioned into that. And I did some COVID virtual teaching with a first grade class when I was substituting while I was still getting my certifications and stuff. And the kids did well with me. And I'll be honest, I think if the kids had just a pure AI digital teacher, kids would not learn. Kids would not be engaged. So I'm a very big humanist. I'm very big on I love philosophy. I love the fact that humanity is a thing and I like the interconnectedness that we have as people, how we can literally just instantly connect over something with someone random that we maybe never met, like just like you and me today, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um and I think that's like the beauty of like our civilization. And one thing when I go for my PhD next year for my dissertation, I want to really focus on like the cyborg question. I want to talk about the like people adopting AI and technology as like an everyday part of their life. Because nowadays I see kids walking down the hallway all the time. Their phone is glued to their hand, and it's almost like I have like my watch on my hand now, and it's like we are partially connected. Like we're partial cyborgs, if you want to.
Mm.
The real step in the cyborgification of humanity is with the Neuralink with Elon Musk and them.
Elon Musk. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, it sounds cool like when you're playing like a video game, like if you're playing like Fallout or if you're playing the new Starfield that just literally came out today. Like it's cool to see this technology and spaceships and interdimensional travel, and until it becomes reality, then it becomes scary.
Yeah.
So I
You
think that's
know,
kind of the issue.
earlier you mentioned about how all the apps are free now. And there's a quote, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it says something like, if something is free, then you're the product. And so what really scares me about this cyborgification is, Elon Musk, I'm not really sure what to think about that guy, and I don't really
It's
trust corporations
mhm.
and them having access to my brain and what I think. I mean, that's a scary thing.
Yep.
What I see happening is there are going to be people who are, what do you call it, early adapters. When that Neuralink comes out, they're going to jump right in and get
Hmm.
it and play it into their head. And there's going to be like some horror stories, just like how this Tesla self-driving, there's accidents and things like that.
Hmm.
And, my thinking is this, like, is there anybody out there like, like any lawmakers or anything like that who are like saying, hey, let's put the brakes on this a bit. Let's slow down. Let's figure everything out because, you know, someone like Elon with that power of putting that stuff in people's heads, I mean, that's a type of power that I don't think we've ever seen before, in human history. And just the what can go wrong, like maybe this is a little outlandish, but let's say somebody has that chip in their head, right? And it records their memories. Could somebody hack that chip and like, steal your memories?
That's like in Cyberpunk. I don't know if you've ever played Cyberpunk. That's
I've
actually
heard
literally
of it.
that's the story. That's literally the story. You put a
Oh
chip in
wow.
your head because you do a heist. You put a chip in your head, and there's another person in that chip trying to take over your body.
Oh wow.
That's literally the game.
Yeah.
So you have to decide on if you want to let him take over your body or you got to try to get a way for him to get out. There's so many different endings. I haven't actually finished the
Hmm.
game. I just started playing because it went on sale. I got on the Steam summer sale.
Yeah.
But that game, it made me think like, I'm like, wow, this is literally like a like a an AI world. Like this is actually where we're headed, in
Hmm.
the future. So you bring up very valid stuff. Like this is so true. Like you're right to be skeptical because, like I said, technology is a tool. Technology itself is not intrinsically good or bad. It does not have a moral compass or a code that it follows. It depends who's behind the technology on how it's used. And
Hmm.
right now, I like to always suggest to people that are new to this field of studying technology, the history of technology and social media, I always suggest a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. It's a
Hmm.
very, very digestible film on learning about the true algorithms of social media, how we've become products under this system of surveillance capitalism, and essentially how your screen time every day is being used to profit the pockets of these large corporations. Um, I was watching recently another series where a woman was talking about her dating experience. They were talking about how AI can improve dating, and I'm a single guy, so I'm on dating apps and stuff, unfortunately. But with the dating apps in the future, the way they were talking about is what AI can do is it can actually construct, or even like they were actually more so talking about like the idea of the metaverse being introduced with dating,
Hmm.
because nowadays the culture of dating, it's no longer you just meet someone outside and you're like, hey, would you want to go out for like food or dinner or lunch or coffee or something, and like naturally developing connections with people. Now it's just you swipe left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right.
Hmm.
And that swiping mechanism was actually designed copying slot machines.
Oh
Because
wow.
gambling is a very big addiction, and I'm showing the camera obviously, but when you guys are
Yeah, I
listening,
got you.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you're using a slot machine, traditionally you pull down the handle, and then what you do is you wait, and your brain is waiting for the response. It's almost like Pavlov's dog experiment, where they
Mm.
would ring the bell and then have the dog salivate to food. Very similar psychology behind it, and that's why we swipe to refresh things. So when you want to refresh your X or Twitter feed or your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed, everything you're swiping down.
Hmm.
So
I could with what you mentioned about dating, what I could see happening is if AI, like you were saying about the animals, right, and how they set up a little profile for them,
mhm.
AI could maybe find partners for people, and
Mhm.
it'll be like your soulmate, you know, and that
Yeah,
that
it's
could
gonna
be,
try.
yeah,
So with the metaverse, like you've heard that term like tossed around a lot
yeah,
lately. So like Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, he changed it to Meta, and they want to create this something called a metaverse. And everyone's like, what the hell is this metaverse? To give you like the most basic understanding of the metaverse, have you ever played Pokemon Go?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's literally the metaverse. They want to essentially think of it as like a layover on, they want to do a technological internet virtual layover, a skin over our reality. That's the metaverse. So it's not like you're sitting at home with like your Oculus on and you're just chilling in virtual land. It's incorporating virtual stuff into our real world. So in a way where like maybe you're walking around with these glasses on and you'll see Pokemon in the wild, but they're not really there, but they're laid over your glasses. You could see a Pikachu climbing a tree, you know, and that defines honestly the metaverse. And they were talking about how the metaverse could be used to make dating a little bit better because, for example, you know, you swipe left and right and you match with someone, you talk to them, you like them. Hey, let's go meet up awkwardly for coffee or something. Whereas it doesn't feel natural. It feels very forced, you know, because you swipe and then, whereas in the metaverse, what it would do, it would match you with someone random that they think it would, like you said, it would pair you with someone that thinks that the AI algorithm thinks you would get along very well. And then what would happen is it would pick a neutral location for you guys to meet up at like a local coffee shop. And you would actually just go in there and just meet each other for the first time. So it's not this awkward, like talking and texting and technology bull, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, you know, because I actually have been looking, I'm like, I want to do like a blind date. I want to do like, go on like a show. I've applied to like some of the dating shows in New York City and stuff. I've gotten some feedback, but one of them, they were just waiting for like I don't know. But so I think it's like cool because like I like the fact that we interact with other humans. And I feel like we're slowly losing that with how much people are incorporating and using technology in their lives.
Yeah,
and that's like the one fear I have.
Well, here's the thing about that. Like, so I get like how the metaverse could be a great place for people to meet and interact. My thing is this, right? So let's say there's a guy and a girl, they meet in the metaverse, they have a great date, everything goes well, they really hit it off, but there's still one other issue, and that's what people look like in real life, you know? So they might connect in the metaverse and they have their little digital avatars and all that.
Well, no, it wouldn't be digital avatars. It would be in like reality. So this is talking about I should have prefaced that a little bit better. Like I meant more so like the future of the potential of what the metaverse and VR and AI are capable of doing. This wouldn't be anywhere in the near future. But I agree. I would never do something like that. I would never do like an avatar and go date with someone because I'll be honest. Like, listen, I'm looks are not the number one. I agree.
Yeah, they matter.
It's not my number one concern. Trust me, I'm a very intellectual person. I value deep, stimulating conversation. But I have to be physically attracted to you as well. It just has to be a mix of all, you know?
Yeah.
So the metaverse, what it would be capable of doing in the future. So for example, like I said, the glasses I'm wearing, if I were able to, let's say the metaverse is like within them, right? So I'm actually looking around my room. I'm looking around I see everything for what it is, but the metaverse would lay things on top of that. So maybe like I'd have a skin for my wall over here, even though in reality there's nothing there, but let's say there's like a cool skin of one of my favorite characters from a show or something on there now.
I gotcha.
That's like what the metaverse would be. And then it would like tell you to go to, this place. And the reason why the AI would be smart enough to know your taste is because you would be swiping on people or, it has built up an algorithm about like what Isaac likes blondes. He likes girls that have this or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. That's completely arbitrary. I was just making it up.
No, I got you.
He really does like blondes.
But,
Maybe he does.
Well, let me ask you this, like, the metaverse is kind of not taking off right now.
No.
It's kind of failed. Why do you think that is? And what do you think Meta has to do to, sort of right that ship?
That's a good question. I don't have an exact answer. I can give you my best assumption. My assumption would be that the technology just simply is not there.
Yeah.
Yet. The capabilities of they're currently working on they actually have super quantum computers, and these computers are able to do like absolutely unreal things. It is crazy. So maybe in the next couple of years, I forgot if it's called, is it Moore's law? I believe that's it. I'm going to be upset if it's not.
Is that
Yes,
where every 7 years, it gets faster, or
every
7 months?
years.
Oh, every
Every
two
two
years.
years,
Wow.
the number of transistors on an integrated circuit board doubles about every 2 years. So every 2 years, we see literally a square root. So that's exponential growth. It's not just like, times two, you're squaring the number. So everything doubles. So it would be 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 16, 16 and 16 is, whatever. And then that's how they explain the growth of technology and its capabilities. So in the next 2 years, we may see drastic leaps in VR and things along those
Yeah.
lines.
I know Apple has put out a headset. Have you seen that Apple headset? It's like something ridiculous.
Yes, I
Yeah.
don't know too much about it. Do you?
I don't know much about it, but I know what's interesting is that so when you think about Oculus Rift, you have those big bulky goggles that cover your eyes. The thing about the Apple one is on the other side, it projects your eyes. So like the camera is actually recording your eyes, and it has a screen on the
Oh,
outside, so it'll project your eyes. The thing is I'm not really sure what the point of that is, because I think you still can't really see out. You're still looking into the goggles, but I guess maybe Apple feels it makes it more personable or something like that. I don't know, but I think they're like $3,000 or something like that.
and that's another problem with technology is that it's not
Mm,
accessible.
yeah, it's interesting. So we've kind of talked about the doom and gloom of like AI. What do you think like is like say 10 years from now, what would be like the best case scenario? Like if everything works out well, like what would you like to see?
That's actually really hard to say because I'll be
Mm,
quite honest with you. Lately, I'm very skeptical of technology. Um,
same.
and I'm a little bit concerned with where it's going, but not where it's going, but who's using it.
Mm,
That's my biggest concern. Like you said, it's because it's ultimately who's using this and what are they using it for? What are their goals and their ambitions? I don't want for example, since the Patriot Act after 9/11, they have what is it? They have the ability to spy on any American whenever they want for any reason.
hmm
So you have to kind of assess like you're giving up your freedom to do whatever you want because technology is going to be overwhelmingly over you and watching you all the time.
hmm Yeah, we're looking at like a potential, people say surveillance state, but with AI and with what you're talking about, this metaverse, we have
Mhm.
the potential to see something that like would make 1984 look like Sesame Street or something like that. Like it's gonna get bad, and like a lot of times people, a lot of times people talk about AI, and it's always doom and gloom, but I can't help it. Like I know earlier we had mentioned about jobs, and I remember reading somewhere they said that kids who are in school now are probably going to be working jobs that don't even exist yet. So I'm curious, like with AI coming, what are some fields? Like, let's say you were talking to some first graders, right? And they were asking you for advice, well, like what
Yeah.
they should study. Should they learn how to code or
That's a
should
good
they
question.
not?
That's a really good
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I actually have a friend. She's going back to school right now for coding. She used to be a
hmm
zoologist, believe it or not. So
Oh, wow.
it's funny, but you know, I think like code's kind of confusing. Like I've seen it. She's shown me some of the work she does. Like it's like learning a full language. It is a very complex system,
It
and the
is.
people that know how to use it are very very talented people. Um, and what I would say is, to be honest, I think everyone should learn that type of stuff because in the future, dude, if we're talking about like all of this stuff coming to fruition, we're going to need extremely intelligent, well-rounded people that are well versed in technology, coding, AI, software development. Like we're going to need people that are capable of working with this level of technology. And like we said, like with Moore's law, we don't know how expansive this entire field of technologies and the internet and AI and all this stuff is going to expand. So we don't know exactly. It's kind of like limitless at this point. We don't know where the ceiling is, if there is a ceiling. Yeah. So the types of jobs that are going to exist in the future are probably far out there. I mean, especially in terms of like, you know, being AI specialists and things along those lines. And just the fact AI is going to just open up so many different avenues for income and being professionals and things along those lines. But technology is always a safe field. I mean, listen, what I did, I went to school my first year. I went to a 4-year college. After the first year, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I majored in nutrition, and then I was minoring in history at the time, and I was taking like seminars in nursing because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah.
So then
I left that year. I went to the community college I teach at now. I was there for a couple of years because I'm like, oh, I'm going to get into the nursing program. It's really good, and I like nursing. I like helping people. I like science. So I got into the really competitive program, and then halfway through, I just dropped out. I hated it. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then I decided, I'm like, you know what? I don't care about making money. I don't care about X or Y or Z, what other people think. I like history. I'm going to study history, and I'm going to go wherever it takes me. And so far, it's taken me in a pretty good direction. But it does take drive and ambition and, you know, consistency in that regard. But, you know, I never want to be the person to tell people what they should do. But it is always good to make suggestions. And like, you can never go wrong with like technology fields, like anything in computing, computer engineering, you know, those jobs all make great money. Listen, I have a master's degree. About to go for a PhD. I have friends that have just bachelor degrees and they make more than me. And
yeah,
you know, I have friends that have bachelor degrees that make 6 figures that work in technology just because they, you know, they're a computer engineer. That's it. So,
you know, one thing that's often tossed around is people say, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who are just going to be out of work, and that maybe we should have something like universal basic income. You're shaking your head no, so you're against it.
Yeah, I'm a very when I was younger, I guess, like usually when you're a young person and you're going through like liberal arts education and stuff, like you start to question like, yo, communism sounds like it would work, or socialism or whatever, all this stuff. And then when you're a historian and then you like do research and you see like, bro, it's never worked. Like you got to also realize the number one antagonist to the socialist system is humans are not perfect. Therefore, someone's going to be greedy, someone's going to be an asshole, and someone's going to screw people over or try to take more power for themselves. Because I'm telling you, bro, if you took 1,000 people and put them into a society and you studied them for years, do you really think that they would live in a perfect society for 10 years?
No.
Yeah, something would go. Someone's going to kill someone. Someone's going to snap. Someone's going to hurt someone. Something's going to happen, right? There's never going to be a perfect, fully equal society ever. So in that regard, and then when we look at capitalism, like really the reason why we live in such a comfortable society today, I mean, listen, man, you can work a very simple job and live a very comfortable life, especially with the fact that we have technology nowadays. Like even the poorest of the poor in America have cell phones, right?
Yeah.
I teach at a very underserved district. I teach at a Title I district, which is literally federally the worst level of school that you can teach at, right? They need the most financial aid from the district, from the federal government. And in these districts, these kids like come from very, very impoverished families where like they struggle to find out where food's coming that night. You know what I mean? Where there are food insecurities and financial insecurities in those families. But those kids sure as shit, they have an iPhone, iPhone 14 at that, you know?
Yeah.
So the biggest argument for like why I would say like capitalism like functions better than like socialism, when why like it drives innovation, because competition, you know, we are all naturally competitive people. At least I know I was back when I was in college. I was really good at games. I was in some of the top 2,000 like ranking leaderboards for a couple like League, Overwatch. I know what it's like to be competitive, so I know I like to compete with people. And competition drives innovation because, you know, if you innovate, you tends to lead you to becoming better, or it gives you an advantage over your opponent. And if you're a financial person, you're probably going to be making more profit now because of that advantage in your product. So because of all of that innovation and drive, it led to a society where technology has been so overproduced that it's cheap to afford all these different technologies, and they're affordable for the public. And like I said, the people that even live in the poorest households still have unlimited technology at the palm of their hand, and it can spend endless hours entertaining themselves. Not that it's like a good thing to do, but I'm just saying theoretically, compared to like the serfs of the Middle Ages and the medieval era, like, would you rather be shoveling shit in a field for a lord, or would you rather, work a minimum wage job and then go home and play video games or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
That's the way I
And
look at it.
I mean, I totally get you about, capitalism driving innovation and things like that. My thing is that I feel like eventually we're going to innovate in a way like, so you mentioned about like the low income job. Like, let's say there's a guy working fast food, right? Within the next 5 or so years, I think we're going to have like fast food restaurants that have no people. Maybe like there's one person inside there, but it's like all automated. So you would go to McDonald's, there's like a little touch screen in there. You
Well,
want
now
a
they do
Big
have that.
Mac, yeah,
Yeah.
they have that now, but I think like you still have the people in there right now. I think that eventually it might just be like one manager in there and maybe like a guy to fix the machines if they go down.
Hmm.
But my thinking is like, what's going to happen to all these people who are out of work? Are they going to be like retrained or something? Because I think UBI isn't the answer either. But at the same time, like if you look at like San Francisco, you look at the West Coast, homelessness
Oh,
is
it's
out of control.
so. Oh, dude, it's so. I see videos all the time of like people literally leaving their windows down because
Hmm.
people break so many windows there that
Wow,
they'd rather them try to get into their car and find nothing than break the window and then find nothing.
that's wild. And
Isn't
well,
it
I think
unbelievable?
that, yeah, I think that like with AI, that's going to become global. You're going to have two groups of people. You're going to have a group of people who have adapted and managed to keep pace with the changing world. And then you're going to have groups of people who are just, flat on their ass, so to
Hmm.
speak, and they're homeless. And I wonder like what's going to happen with that. Um,
I don't know if like I would. I don't know if I'd ever see a McDonald's, even a restaurant with
mhm.
full. I don't even know if there's a level of AI, even in the foreseeable future, that would be able to cook a full meal and put it all together. I think like
Really?
I think humans having fine motor skills is an
Hmm.
advantage over. I mean, there are some robots, like for example, like in AI and technologies being used to do surgeries, where
Hmm.
doctors from like Taiwan are doing surgeries on people in Norway because they're a
Hmm.
specialist and they can do it through like wearing those gloves. They can control the computers and perform surgeries from a distance and using just technology and having the hardware be there. So but there's still a human element. Like, I don't know, if you went in for a procedure and they said, we've been training this AI to perform the surgery, it's not going to be a doctor. Like, how would you feel?
Well, it's interesting you asked that. So, a couple of years ago, my dad had his prostate removed. He had a little prostate cancer scare, and we went with him to the hospital, and the doctor gave him two options, just like you said. He said that the human could do it or the robot. And at first, my dad said human, but after the doctor explained, he said that the robot has a higher success rate than any human, and that basically the
Whoa.
doctor just stands in the room and just oversees the robot.
Just in case there's an
And
emergency or something.
yeah, and my dad had his prostate removed with the robot, and it went off without a hitch. So my
That's
thing is,
awesome.
yeah, if a robot can, do surgery, then a robot can make a hamburger,
So now are
you know.
doctors irrelevant? Are surgeons irrelevant?
Yeah, they might be. I
See,
think that
and
like, yeah,
that's a good question.
I think that what's going to happen is like you're going to have like experienced sort of surgeons and doctors who have seniority and a lot of experience. They're going to sort of transition to being like the sort of the overseers of the medical robots. They just sort of stand by. But I wonder, like, you're going to have people who are in medical school maybe right now who are paying huge sums of money and time to be a doctor, and then eventually they're going to graduate and then they're going to try and look for jobs and they're going to be like, sorry, learn the code,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's really hard to see where this is going. But I ask you this, right? So let's say the president came to you, right, and he said, "Hey, I need some advice on this AI. Whatever you can tell me one thing to do, just one thing, and I'll do it." All right, what one thing would you tell him?
That is a hard question.
Uh-huh.
If Joe Biden was capable of putting together a sentence like that, first of all, I'd be very impressed.
Yeah.
And did you see recently Mitch McConnell? Like
Yeah,
all the stuff
Mitch
going on with
McConnell
that guy?
froze. Yeah,
Bro,
yeah,
like what the I'm sorry to
yeah.
get sidetracked. It's just crazy.
No,
These are
no, it
our
is
politicians,
crazy.
but maybe
Yeah,
AI can take over our politicians.
they might, they might. And maybe it would be preferable, you know. Maybe an AI won't launch a nuke, maybe an AI won't be as crazy as Donald Trump. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
maybe it'll be preferable to have AI in control, you know?
What would I ask him to do with AI? I think
Yeah. Or like just like, if you would tell him like, hey, pass this law to prevent AI from doing this, or
I would probably want there to be one of the big problems actually with AI that they're trying to work on is bias in
mhm,
AI reporting. This stems from a lot of different things. So, as a historian, it's very
mhm,
obvious that there has been significant levels of bias in history, whitewashing in history,
yeah,
neglect of people's histories, and things
yeah,
along those lines.
racism,
So,
yeah,
all
basically,
that
yeah,
stuff accumulates on the internet, right?
mhm,
And then those histories are learned by the AI, but the AI doesn't know better, right?
yeah,
It literally just learns what it's given. So maybe it doesn't. So AI might not actually understand that, like some of these whitewashes of history, and they may not be racially. They might not understand. Like for example, race is a social phenomenon, right? It's not a
mhm,
biological thing that exists. So I'm not sure how AI can handle conceptual information like that, where it's like theoretical social implications as opposed to just raw scientific facts and knowledge and things along those lines. So they're trying
mhm,
to work on that. So I would have a law passed that would put protections on like the manipulation of AI from behind the scenes by like feeding it like biased information or racist information or any type of like anti any category information
mhm.
to have it be as true to us as possible. I know that's asking a lot, like asking for truth and honesty, but um that's probably what I would ask because I think it would be
Yeah,
a great tool for everyone to use for all different sorts of things. Like I'm planning on next week when classes start and I start my college classes, I want to tell my all the students and kids that I want to teach them about AI. I want them to know, like, hey, listen, I know AI exists. Don't think you're pulling a sheet over my head. I'm not a dumbass. I know how the
mhm,
algorithms function, and I have resources to check if they were created via AI. So do not submit AI work. You can use AI as a tool and a resource to help you with your research, answering questions, and helping supplement your information. Do not ever, if I ever catch you using AI, I'm going to kill you. Don't do it. Just
yeah,
don't do it. Because that, like I said, it takes away from the human element. Because yes, you can ask AI to write you a 5 paragraph essay. But if it does that, what skill did you develop? What's the process that you had in there?
mhm,
Right? There's no human growth. So now the problem is we're going to enter into one of my fears is that we're going to because nowadays we rely too much on technology. Like for example, one thing I rely on is GPS.
yeah, same here.
My mom can drive almost anywhere around the area without a GPS
Yeah,
ever. And me, I feel like I use the GPS to go somewhere in town.
yeah,
And I
just
don't
down the
even,
street.
yeah, I don't know why. I feel like so insecure when I'm driving, especially like when I get to highways and stuff and I'm going to like other
Yeah,
cities. And I'm like, that's pathetic of me. Like, I need to, like, this is something I should have learned.
mhm,
And that's like that's like where I've noticed it the most. We have this over reliance. So imagine the GPS systems all went down around the world. What would you do? You
yeah,
know, would we be screwed?
Yeah. Yeah, we would
Prob-
be. We
a
would
lot of
be.
things you wouldn't be able to track your family members. There's a lot of things that wouldn't work without GPS tracking. There's a lot, like the apps on your phone. Every app on your phone, GPS, just for using the Google Maps or whatever. There's a lot of things that would stop working if GPS went down.
Yeah, it is. So, let me ask you this, and then we can just begin to wrap up. So, what are some books or like maybe movies that you think people should watch or read to like get a good idea of like where AI is going?
If you want to scare yourself shitless, you got to
Hmm.
read the classic, 1984.
Yeah,
So, for those of you that I don't know, I mean, a lot of you have probably read it in school, but
yeah, I read it in school
1984,
too.
right? It's like a dystopian, like science fiction book about, like the advancements of technology, pacifying the public, Big Brother surveillance systems, all things that exist today, right? By George Orwell. You can probably find it online for free if you'd like.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. For AI and surveillance. Let me see. Actually, I was watching this Netflix series that's pretty good. If you guys want to like check it out, it is. Let me see if I can find it really quick. There's a couple. One of them is called Connected.
Hmm.
He does a pretty good job of like. It's weird. This one guy was his name. Latif Nasir. He
Hmm.
goes around the world and he talks about how like everything is connected, whether it is with technology or not, and how technology is being used to help with that field. So he has episodes on like surveillance. He has an episode on like how technology is being used in like excrement studies, like studying like sewage and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dust, clouds, nukes, like all this kind of stuff. So he does a good job there. Um, there's one other one, and it's like slipping my brain, and I watched it recently. Um, I can't remember what it was called. I gotta look it up and I gotta get it back to you. But I watched it recently. I'm like, wait, this is like really good. It's a documentary series on Netflix. I'm sure if you type in like technology,
One thing,
probably
while
find
you're
it.
thinking of it, one thing too is probably Black Mirror. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, I've watched all the Black Mirrors. Black Mirror is a cool
Yeah,
show to kind of show you what things could possibly look like if
yeah.
things keep growing in that direction.
Hmm.
I found it. So it's called The Future of,
Gotcha.
and it's really good. This is actually where I got a lot of the information on like the dating. So they do the future of dogs, dating, houseplants, gaming, space vacations, cheeseburgers, life after death, sports, fashion, skyscrapers, health, headphones, and it just talks about how these things could possibly evolve in the future if technology still progresses that at this like in this way.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, so it's all the future of it's all centered around AI. So
Mm.
if you want to see, and the cool thing about each episode is they talk about companies that are actually doing research in those areas to achieve what they're saying could be possible with AI. So I would make that suggestion to watch as well.
All right, then. Yeah, so we'll definitely check it out. Any last thing you want to say? Anything you want to promote or anything like that, or any?
um, I'm going through like a very transitional stage currently of trying to figure out how I want to professionally um display myself online. I'm not like I'm sure you can tell I'm not very big into social media and like online
Mhm.
presence and stuff, but it's obviously important to have today, especially for professional reasons, academic reasons. I do have a podcast. It's called Get Informed. You
Mhm.
can look it up on like listen, if my like high schoolers can like Google search it and find me and find it,
Gotcha.
I'm sure you guys can find it. It's called Get Informed. I basically talk about like controversial topics and I talk about both sides of the argument to give people a little bit more of a holistic view so that they can then make their own opinion as opposed to just saying like, well, I'm a Democrat, so I have to believe this, or I'm a Republican, so I have to believe this. It's like, no, let's just not choose a side. Let's just have our own beliefs as independent, free thinking people and agree
Yeah.
to disagree with people sometimes. Um, so yeah, so I don't, that's pretty much it. That's, you can listen to the podcast. I have an Instagram that's also called the Get Informed podcast, but that's the one I'm going to be changing, I think, into more of like a professional one, and then it'll have like my podcast. I'm looking to do like a small vlog series, and there's other types of interesting stuff that I'm working on in my professional field. So you guys can check that
Awesome.
out.
All right, then. Cool. Well, I'll look forward to it, and I'll definitely check out your podcast. Thank you for your time, and you have a nice day.
Thanks, Isaac.
Take care.